All right. Let's see what we've got. Falling on the horizon.
Howdy do, y'all. So, this is Emmett Watkins Jr., also known as DJ Spun61, and I just finished reviewing the new Eminem album, Kamikaze. Now, I'm not exactly sure the order in which I'm going to upload these videos, but I did just review the Eminem album. That video is a long one. And that was just talking about the music as much as I could. Now, this video I wanted to make talking about the reaction to the album and a little bit about Eminem himself and just things that aren't just specifically talking about and critiquing the music itself. Because there's a lot of things in my mind relating to Eminem with the release of this album. So we're gonna, as I've said in the review video, if that's up, I have to think if I'm gonna release this video first or if I'm gonna release, the review first, because the review is like over an hour long, well over an hour long. I don't think that, I probably should have just stopped talking at a certain point, but whatever. But I want to talk about here is some of the stuff I've been seeing around this album. So I want to go back first to Revival. Revival, I of course made a review for it on my channel here as well. I'll likely link to that either at the end of this video or somewhere in the description or something. Revival, I reviewed it and I was pretty critical on it. There were parts that I liked. There were many parts that I liked, but ultimately I came away not liking the album as much as I wanted to, and overall I came away pretty negative on it. Much of the internet didn't just come away negatively on it. They straight up hated it. They memed it to death. They just said it was trash, it was irredeemable, it was just completely bad. I of course I saw redeeming qualities in the album, and I'm even more positive on it now, but people were dragging that album back when it first came out. A lot of the people that Eminem dissed on this Kamikaze album just straight up just hated the album irredeemably. So I understood that, and I understood people don't like Eminem, and he made it kind of hard to ride for him too much. So but I would, because when I say he made it hard to ride for him, in some of the songs, I actually said this in the review for this new album. In Revival, he kind of leaned into the rape lines a little bit much. It seemed like he was leaning into it at least. I don't know if it was on purpose or just what he happened to write about. But it kind of felt a little off to me. And, some of the instrumental choices with Rick Rubin being back on helm for this album, some of them were kind of corny, an I Love Rock and Roll sample for one of the songs. Lyrically you're great, but on this song, but it was not really what I'm trying to listen to. A lot of rap rock on there. It's just, not the type of M I like. But here's the problem. So of course, Eminem fan. I'm a big Eminem fan. I was looking forward to this album for a long time. When Walk on Water, the lead single, before I even heard it, I was at work when it came out, so I couldn't really listen to it until I went on break. But I opened my phone at the time it was supposed to drop. I opened my phone just to see what it was. When I saw this man had a feature with Beyonce, I was crawling out of my skin. I was so overjoyed. I teared up a little bit at work when I saw that. I was like, holy fuck. Beyonce is one of my favorite artists of all time. She's also in my top 5 alongside Eminem. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my god. He's reaching out to the black community. He's reaching out to, well, man, I don't want to say it like that because it kind of sounds like, oh man, white man's gracing us with his presence. But no, it feels so much like Eminem is afraid to work with us for reasons I don't entirely understand. Back in the day, he used to work with us all the time. He worked with Snoop Dogg, Exhibit, Dr. Dre, of course. He had so much. He had so much from us and of us on his albums. Nate Dogg, especially multiple hits with Nate Dogg. He'd work with us all the time, but sometime around the, I guess after the 50 thing, because he worked with 50 Cent on Relapse. Sometime around Recovery, that dried up a little bit. Sure, he still worked with Rihanna, but Pink was on there. and it just seems like he got more. He started paying more attention to the pop charts than us. More trying to appeal to the pop crowd rather than the hip hop crowd. That's just what it felt like. So when I saw Beyonce featured, I was like, oh shit, he's trying to appeal to us again. And it was also a really big surprise because you think of the typical Eminem fan and you think of the typical Beyonce fan, the complete opposite person. So I was like super hype about this. Listen to the song, and of course, while I like the song, it's not like something I'm gonna bang every day. So, you know, I heard the song and I was like, oh man, he's taking a new direction, taking a more introspective direction. He's trying to actually talk about something in this album, not just in this song. So I was pretty excited about it. But this all led to, well, first off, they had that next single, Untouchable. Untouchable came out. I loved Untouchable. I had that shit on repeat for like, I think it came out a week before the album came out. I had that on repeat almost that whole week. I love that song, and later on when they actually put out a lyric video for it, it definitely brought the song full circle around, because I was starting to, you know, dislike that song a little bit because it was a very overbearing choice of instrumental and everything. But like, oh my god, that song, just the idea of it, the concept of it, I thought was really good at the end of the day. And just the whole extremes on one side, and then, you know, the opposite side wasn't extremes, but the opposite side was, you know, countering those extremes from the other side. And I thought that was just a brilliant way to do that, especially with the beat change being a really crazy rap rock beat, and then the next one being like a typical, like, you know, thumpy rap beat. I thought that was just so good. And so despite the hate that people like Joe Budden and academics on Everyday Struggle at the time, despite the hate that track got, I really dug that track. But the first time, so the album came out, right? But before the album even came out, one of my dearest friends in the world, Tyler Westhouse, in our group chat, just hit me up and was like, "Yo, Revival just leaked. It's bad." And I'm like, "Oh." And he sent me a link, and I went to download it. The first exposure I had, the first opinion of this album that I received was that it was bad. I didn't have a chance. I didn't have a chance to dislike this. I didn't have a chance to like this album. Literally the first thing I heard about the album as a whole was that it was bad. So, like, I heard it was bad from him, and then on Twitter, you know, the shit leaked. Everyone's already talking about it. The track list had already been out. People saw the track list and was like, oh, this is going to be trash. All these pop features. You know, everything. Everybody was just like, oh, this sucks. It's bad. It's going to be bad. His last two songs were bad. Even though I liked the last two songs pretty well. Walk on Water, you know, not something I play every day, but I appreciated the song. Probably appreciated it more than I liked it. But Untouchable, I legitimately thought was a great song. Everyone just shat all over everything related to this album for so many weeks leading up to its release. And then once I finally do get the chance to hear it, the first opinion I get on the album itself was that it was bad. So I just I didn't even get a chance to even try to like the album. So I didn't really bring that into consideration too much when I made my video review. I kind of even began, or maybe I just fully did, I leaned into a lot of the hate that the album was receiving. If you saw my thumbnail, it's literally me with my hand over my head, like in a palm, like face palming myself, similar to the Revival album cover. That was a cute way to say, oh, I didn't like it, but also, you know, kind of reflect that cover as well. But also, you know, just kind of adding insult to injury. And a lot of people didn't like the album, but as I've said, I've been listening to it more and more over the last couple months. And while I still don't like a lot of the instrumental choices on here, the lyricism from Eminem is still on point. The lyricism is still, like, he has so many bars in this song, or in this album, that it's hard to ignore, and it's hard to take that it's hard to take that and then think that, yo, the whole album is irredeemably bad. Because lyrically, he is still on point, as on point as he's ever been. So I'm just like, why? So we all hate this album. That's fine, but you know, I'm finding more ways to appreciate it the more I've listened to it over the last couple months. So now we get to Kamikaze, and Kamikaze is just a completely different beast. With Kamikaze, you know, with Kamikaze, Eminem listens to a lot of his detractors, kind of like how he listened to a lot of his detractors with the release of the Chloroseptic remix, which was one of his more traditional-ish rap beats that were on the album. Had Fresher was already featured on the original track, but Fresher actually had a verse this time, and also 2 Chainz was featured on the track as well with a verse. A lot of people were hoping M would use some more rap features, and he did in Kamikaze. People wanted him to move away from the production of Rick Rubin and the more rap rock and more in your face beats, and he did. He got, he has a Tay Keith beat on this new album. He has Mike Will Made It producing multiple tracks, I think about 2 or 3. He moved away. He's working with a lot of producers that folks like Drake and folks like XXXTentacion. A lot of these artists that this new generation likes, he's getting beats from them. He's trying to get some, musical inspiration from them just a little bit. Yet the reception I'm seeing online is that they still don't like this album. And it's not just, random tweets, just one person with 5 likes on their tweet just being like, yo, this album's trash. I'm seeing this from a lot of people. And it's not just people saying, oh, well, I'm seeing a lot of people first off say that the entire album's trash. The entire album is just irredeemable. It's just bad. And, that's something that I can't agree with. I can understand people not liking songs like Normal. There's a pretty odd beat on that one. And something like Nice Guy, pretty odd beat on that one as well. Weird vibes, definitely. But two tracks doesn't make for a terrible entire album unless that album is 2 tracks long. So I can't understand people just doing that entirely. And then also the big controversy related to this album, I feel like there's always a controversy for every Eminem album, which is of course something that's been the case since he got on the scene, since he gained popularity. But people are saying that, they're canceling Eminem because he said the F word about Tyler the Creator. He called Tyler the Creator the F word. F word being F-A-G. I'm not going to say it here, but it's definitely not fuck. It's not that word. So people are upset about that. And that's a weird one, because if you look at the context of the song, he said, Eminem said, quote, no wonder why you call yourself a F word. Tyler has called himself that many times in his music, and M's just simply saying that Tyler has called himself that. And then even past that, M, despite all the, incendiary things he says in a lot of his raps, he decided to censor that word. If you listen to the song, he bleeps that out. He record scratches over that. And, I don't understand. He didn't say the word. If you want to be technical about it, I'm sure that's what he might have been implying a little bit, but he didn't say the word, and people are upset that he did. And then I've seen a lot of, memes and comments online of people, the one meme I saw in particular that, got me a little bit was, it was a tweet, and it was saying something along the lines of Eminem calls Tyler Creator a F word, and then all the Eminem stands are like, oh, he sure has a way with words, like the meme from SpongeBob. And it's like, I feel like that's just mischaracterizing those who like Eminem. I mean, I guarantee you there are some people who like Eminem because they're like, yeah, he's fucking everybody up. He hates these people. Yeah, keep on with that hate, Shady. I'm sure there are folks out there like that, but it's I don't know. It feels like a weird blanket statement to make. And so ultimately, with all this Kamikaze hate I'm seeing, I kind of feel like I'm coming to a conclusion that people hated on Eminem so much for Revival, and people are hating on him now for Kamikaze. I'm coming to terms with the fact that a lot of people just don't like Eminem, and if you just don't like Eminem, if you just don't like listening to his music, that's totally fine. It's not your obligation to like a popular artist. It is no one's obligation to like a popular artist. If you don't like an artist, don't listen to him. That's my main thing. But what I was really struggling with is something that has been on my mind a lot over the last couple years, really. And it's something, you know, this is kind of going to be, this whole video is going to be off topic, not talking about the album in particular, so I'm going to use a little bit of a tangent here. So if you guys might remember, I do talk about video games a lot on this channel, so some of y'all might know this one. There was a gameplay demo shown recently, maybe not recently, a couple weeks ago, for Doom Eternal, the follow-up to the 2016 shooter Doom. One of my favorite games of that year. I've talked about it in my Game of the Year video that year. But yeah, in this gameplay trailer that they released for Doom Eternal, there was one joke saying something about please refer to the demons, because the whole idea of the game is demons have invaded Earth. And the reason demons are invading Earth anyway is because there's a company that's trying to cure the lack of renewable resources on Earth by extracting energy from hell, and they fucked up and put demons on Earth. And so one of the lines that they say in the background is, please refer to these new life forms on Earth as mortally challenged, not undead. And it's something along those lines. But so with that line, you know, there were one or two tweets in which people said, oh, that mortally challenged line was kind of lame, but this game still looks cool. You know, that's mainly, you know, 4 or 5 tweets where people said, that joke's kind of lame, but, you know, still looks cool. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. The thing that made it a big deal is that there were so many videos, a lot of which got recommended to me because I'm a fan of the game Doom. So they just got recommended to me on YouTube. So many videos of people saying, oh, Doom is pissing off social justice warriors. Doom is making these sensitive people mad. Doom is gonna be, you know, so great for all of us. You know, Doom is red pill as fuck, which is something that I honestly don't exactly know what that means. I know it's a reference to Matrix, but I'm not sure what that has to do with, like, you know, heavily right-leaning people. But anyway, just people heavily on the right, people who like that offensive humor, people who strive for that offensive humor, are like championing the game suddenly because of that joke. And a lot of people are even going as far to say that if you just look at the Doom gameplay, listen to all the chatter in the background when they're talking about the demons, and replace the demons with immigrants, then you could just take the entire game as just an anti-immigrant game and saying how they ruin the earth and stuff. And it's really weird because, you know, there wasn't a lot of quote-unquote SJW rage about that game at all. Not in any way. It was literally just a handful of tweets that one article referenced. One really small article referenced. And all these videos effectively were mentioning the same article. And it was a pretty good wrap-up I saw earlier today from a different YouTuber who isn't one of these people participating in that hate. But God, I'm gonna include his video in the description, so please watch that. But yeah, ultimately in that video, this guy breaks it down and says that all these people who were making videos reacting to the social justice warrior hate for Doom, they were making a bigger stink of it than anyone who may have actually been offended by that joke. There was really very few people who were offended by the joke. The tweets that were referenced in that article had under 5 likes for most of them, and they had to be searched out. They weren't tweets that were just blowing up naturally. You could tell the search terms were bolded by the screen caps of the tweets. So it was just like you had to search these out. It wasn't that big of a deal. So I referenced that to reference the fact that these people who made these videos, you know, going off on the SJWs who were offended by Doom, they were looking for hate because they were looking for a reason to, like, it's basically like a self-validation thing. They only feel validated if they have someone to go against. They only feel like they exist if there's someone to go down on, to shit on, basically. It's like one of these videos that one of the people made about Doom and SJW, being triggered and shit. One of them had something along the lines of SJW's triggered by Doom, normal people are laughing at them, and that basically just frames it as, the other people are mad and upset. The normal people are cool. Click this video if you want to be normal. And it's like, I really just don't like that type of thought process. People hating something. No, not people hating something. People being mad at something because someone else has a reaction to it. Like, in that situation with Doom, they were upset about they were upset not because they had a reason to. They were upset just because someone else was. They weren't upset because they had a genuine reaction to something. They were upset because of someone else's reaction to something. And to bring this back to the Eminem talk, I feel like a lot of the reason people don't like Eminem, because he's always had these problematic lyrics. That is like his hallmark. He said way worse things than this thing he's saying with Tyler, the Creator. But it's like, you don't have to like Eminem. But what is the driving factor for you feeling like you have to comment about it? I feel like just the fact that we're all on social media anyway has just made people have more of an obligation to feel like they need to have an opinion on everything. And it's not necessarily bad that people want to have an opinion on everything. But it's just like, there's plenty of things that I don't like, that I don't care about. But most of these things, I let people enjoy. And plus, there's a lot of problematic media out there. But I don't have a problem with people, liking it or enjoying it. Plenty of people like crime dramas, but that's not going to make you a murderer. Plenty of people like, plenty of people like horror movies like Saw and stuff, but that doesn't mean that's going to make them a serial killer. Like, there's plenty of art out there that is really fucked up that people enjoy. And, I just let them enjoy it. I don't feel the need to be like, no, I don't feel the need to just word unseen, just go out on Twitter and say, hey, I don't like this new Predator movie because people are exploding and I just don't want to see people exploding. Kind of implying that I think people who like seeing people explode are a little fucked up. So with this Eminem thing, it's like, number one, if you don't want to listen to Eminem, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to participate in this, big movement that's happening. If you just know who Eminem is. Most people in the world know who Eminem is by now. You know what type of music he makes. So if the first track turns you off, don't feel obligated to listen to the whole thing. If you even know what music he makes and that just turns you off immediately, then don't listen to the album at all. But the thing that kind of annoys me is all these people who shit on the fans or just shit on the fact that he exists at all, that he's still here. I've seen plenty of people be like, oh, Eminem's using slurs and Eminem's using gay slurs in 2018. Yeah, we ain't doing that. And then they just discredit the entire album. And it's like, it's fine for you to have that opinion, but you saying that to the world changes what? I just don't understand what that does for anything or anybody. And that's just something I've been really thinking about. And it's not just with this Eminem stuff. It's just, I've been thinking about that so much over the last two years, because of course with this election season and everything, once the verdict that did happen happened, a verdict that I'm still not happy about to this day, I was leading up to the election and even a little bit after the election, I was pissed. I was mad that this guy was getting as far as he was. I was upset that, I was upset about a lot of shit, and got me more active into politics and everything. And I'm still very active. Like, I pay attention. I'm not saying I'm out here rallying every day, because Lord knows my life is too much for that. But I'm way more aware politically than I was, 3 years ago, and this election really helped me with that. And I've still been keeping up. I still listen to, lots of politic podcasts. I still keep up on the articles and everything, and actually read a lot of the articles too. So it made me a lot more engaged. But after he won, I've been a little bit more cognizant of how I present myself online. And it wasn't like an everyday thing. It wasn't like right after the election I switched over, but just thinking about it, I was thinking about like how I use the internet and how I engage with it. And do I always need to share everything? Do I always need to make all of my thoughts public? Do I need to share every negative thing I see? And this is also influenced by, there's this one Twitter account called Racism Watchdog, and I followed that for a little while. And basically what that Twitter account does is find, mostly a lot of people on the right political spectrum, and finds, racist things directly or indirectly that they say on Twitter. And then they'll just quote tweet them and just say bark, 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 and just say, look at this racist thing, look at this racist thing, look at this racist thing. And yes, I've always known that people are racist in the world, but do I need a daily or even hourly reminder of all the racists in the world and of all the terrible people in the world? Especially when, me seeing them on Twitter every day is going to do nothing but make me more aware. And by God damn it, I'm aware already. Like, I know. So, like, do I need to see this every day? So I unfollowed Racism Watchdog after a couple months because it was just like, I just don't need this. I don't need to see the other side, and why I don't need their ignorance and my constant view of it to make me upset enough to do something. I'm already going to do something. Like, I'm making sure that my voting registration is all intact. I'm already registered to vote, but we moved recently, and I'm making sure that address gets changed so I can vote during this election. And this is a midterm, so like, this is the first fucking midterm I've been in. So I'm making sure this is happening. So I just, I don't need the motivation of other people to do something good for me, to do something good for my side. So that's why I'm advocating more, not advocating, but that's just, I've on social media, I try not to do the thing where I only post positive things, because then that gives a warped perception of the world. And, ultimately I do have problems, and I post about my problems, and I talk about my problems often. But ultimately, I've been trying to engage less with negativity, both posting it and just seeing it. And with the reception of this Eminem album, I've been really struggling with that. I'll see people, shit on the album, and instead of just being like, well, they don't like the album, and then keep going, while I don't say anything disrespectful, I try to engage. And I try not to engage even, because shit, it doesn't lead anywhere most of the time. But like, I had a friend who said, hey, we still listen to Eminem albums in 2018. What the fuck is this? And I was like, well, no, it was something along the lines of, why does anyone like Eminem in 2018? And, I didn't say anything bad, but it was just like, because he says words well. And then they were like, but he's homophobic as fuck. And then right there, I was like, man, I know he's problematic. I know he said some things. And I know he's probably, and I'll be honest, if he said them in raps, what's the chance that the chance that he's done it is not zero. So I'm not even going to front and say it's just words, but like, I'm sorry that I like it. I'm sorry that I like the art he's putting out. And that's one thing with all a lot of the reason Eminem came with this album that I like a lot is because of negativity. But I'm kind of a fan of it, because out of this negativity came good art. Out of this negativity came some great lyricism over some great beats by some great producers. That's kind of the difference here. Whenever someone else that's kind of what I want people to do, or just all of us to do in real life when we're faced with negativity. put our feelings into something more substantial than just getting into a Twitter argument or just feeling salty internally. Eminem took this anger and made a way superior project than his last album. We take the I would like for us to take this anger and turn it into some type of action as well. He turned his anger into art. We could turn our anger into action in politics. We can turn our anger into inspiration for a new game, for a new song, for a new book, for a new essay. We can turn that anger, even when someone says you can't do anything or you shouldn't be able to do anything or they talk some type of shit, turn that into motivation to prove them wrong. Instead of saying, you're wrong because you've gotten this and you've gotten this and you got it right. Nah, just shut up and prove them wrong. That's what I try to do in my life, and that's what I'm trying to do now, especially after this whole climate. But it's just, I feel like we like to talk a lot of shit on the internet, and in this one specific instance with the Eminem album, the shit talking, it gets to me sometimes, but in this case, it has gotten to me a little bit, and it just makes me upset. I'd like it if people didn't feel. I mean, it's a old thing that my grandparents told me a long time ago before they died. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And with the dawn of social media, we feel like we have to say everything that we think of. And sometimes that's a great thing. Sometimes not so much. And so when it comes to this album with Eminem, Kamikaze, plenty of people are not going to like it. I'm seeing a lot of hate on it. I'm seeing a lot of headlines just calling it trash. I'm seeing a lot of people just straight up say, oh, it's bad. I'm seeing a lot of people just say straight up, oh, Eminem fans are the worst. Just, if you see something you don't like, really consider if there's any reason you need to say something about it. Really consider if there's a purpose to it. Because saying, oh, this Eminem album, literally it's at the top of iTunes. Millions of people are enjoying this. Is there a reason I should say it's bad? Is there a reason I should say I hate it? I'm not saying anyone should like this album if they don't. Eminem just isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, and I've accepted that for better half of a decade now, but I just really would like it if people just didn't feel the need to share every negative thought, because it's something I've been working on. I try not to share, I've had a very rough couple of days. The second half of this summer especially has been rotten for me, but I haven't been posting it much online because I just don't want that in the air. And every now and then I'll be honest about when I have, a bad day or something. Like when this Eminem album came out, I posted on Twitter and Facebook. I literally cried when this album came out because I had a shitty day that day. And the things that happened during that day that made it shitty kind of continued in the next day. But for those brief couple of hours, I was on cloud 9 when I had a new surprise Eminem album. It was a great feeling, and it was so disheartening the very next day when I just saw people hating on it anyway. And, people are entitled to their opinions. They can have their opinions. They should have their opinions. But where's the line of, criticism, constructive criticism, and where's the line of just hating to hate? People, it's not that I'm saying people can just hate to hate. You can hate things just to hate things if you want to, but man, does the world need that? Does the world need more negativity, man? Well, I feel like there needs to be a purpose to it. And so much of the hate I've seen, not just around this album, but just in general on the internet nowadays, is just unnecessary. Because people are gonna, unless you have something to say besides, oh, this sucks, then I just don't want to hear it. So that's it. It's a very somber commentary, and I feel like my, mood kind of got more depressive as we've gone on in the commentary. But I like this Kamikaze album quite a bit. Eminem's problematic, and he's probably going to be problematic for a long time. And also, I want to say, with Revival, he really tried on this album. He really tried on Revival. I can tell with this craftsmanship, I can tell he was trying to say something, even though on the songs where he tried to say something, I like all those songs. It's the more, rap rock songs in which he was having fun were my only issue. I appreciate that he was trying to say something on here. And it's just, that's the thing I want to say about Revival. I kind of referenced that in my other video, but yeah, I really like Revival, all right? And it took me a while to accept it because so many people were hating on Revival at the time that I felt like the flaws that I did see in Revival, that I still do see in Revival, I felt like those had to define the album rather than the things that I did like about the album. So, I mean, that's part of it. I got swept up in the negativity myself, and I added insult to injury, and I said, this thing was bad. And of course I had, a little bit more constructive criticism since I had a whole 48-minute plus video just talking about it. But that's the thing, man. So much negativity on the internet, and so much negativity to the point where people just feel the need to say the negative things. Like this came up with when XXXTentacion died, and also when John McCain died not too long ago from me recording this. Now, to set the record straight, I've listened to maybe 2 XXXTentacion songs, and I am very, very indifferent to John McCain. I wasn't even old enough to vote when he was running. It's not like he's a hero of mine personally or anything. XXX, I just don't listen to him much at all. It's not like I cared about them as individuals much in life, but I was raised that when someone's dead, I was raised to, it's kind of tacky or in poor taste to shit on a person before their body's cold. That's what I've been raised and taught. So when I saw, when X died, he's been accused and has probably straight up done some horrible stuff to previous girlfriends. And, he said some horrible things in interviews as well. And has done some pretty terrible things before he was a rapper. But this kid was a kid. He died when he was about 20 years old. And it was so just weird seeing people online being happy about the death of a 20-year-old. And then, I looked into it later, and this guy was starting to turn back around. He was donating to domestic violence services and funds. He was, doing charity concerts and stuff. It seemed like he was legitimately trying to be a better person. And then he died, and then everyone was like, don't you dare be sad about someone dying. Let alone, forget the music he made. Forget, things that people were a fan of. You should be happy he's dead because he did all these things to people. And it's like, while I don't want to minimize any of the awful things he's said or done, it just feels so weird to see someone, because, shortly after he died, there were videos of him laying dead in his car all over the internet. To see a video like that, and your first instinct is, yes, thank God someone died tonight. Thank God a 20-year-old died tonight. That feels so hurtful to me. And then when John McCain died, I don't really care about John McCain too much, but he tried to be a decent person. He said a lot of fucked up shit. He's probably done a handful of bad things, probably done a lot less than XXX, but he's mostly said some pretty awful things. But I still think back to when he was running against Obama, and you had these, this is when the first glimpse of conspiracy theorist type things started to leak into politics. Those people at his rallies were talking about, Barack's a Muslim and everything. And he, corrected them and said, no, he's a decent man. Now, I've seen the argument that people have made for that clip where they're like, notice how John McCain doesn't say Barack is not a Muslim. He says, no, Barack is a decent man, as if the two are mutually exclusive. It's difficult for me to see that so shortly after this man's death. And it's like, yes, he He probably should have said that no, he's not a Muslim and he's a decent, like, I understand what they're saying. He probably could have worded that better, could have phrased it better, but it just, this man just died. Are we really going to try to mince words here? And then, you know, he got tortured and everything. And I saw people like being like, wow, that, like, just making jokes about him getting tortured. And like, even when he first got diagnosed with his cancer, and people being like, thank God he got cancer. I hope he dies. That just like, that feels terrible. And once again, I feel like you can legitimately have these opinions. You can legitimately, you know, feel however you want to feel about anything. But with this social media, man, it just makes people share whatever they think of, whether or not they know how that's going to affect other people in the world. And it's not like I was like personally hurt by any of the slander I saw in any of these two recently dead people, but it's like, it's less about, oh man, I like John McCain, don't say that about him. It's more like, you saw someone just died and this is the first thing you thought of. It's like, I miss it when it was our instinct to show compassion. Cause like, if you feel a bad way about John McCain, if you feel a bad way about XXX, you can feel your bad way. But back in the day, I felt there was always an era of, oh, I feel like this. I might mention it to my friends personally, but I don't feel the need to tell the world about it. You know, that's the thing. I feel like everyone feels obligation to tell the world about everything they feel, but that I just remember when there was a time when everyone just, they kept the anger to themselves because they knew it was kind of in poor taste to do so, or at least it was looked at upon the world as in poor taste to effectively stand outside a man's funeral and be like, yo, that guy in there that they're burying, he said some fucked up shit 20 years ago. Yo, this guy that they're burying right now, yeah, so what? He donated to all these domestic violence charities. He did some fucked up shit to his girlfriend. And it's like, I just don't know, man. That just doesn't sit right with me. That's the thing. And I fear that making this video and saying the things I've said in this video are going to have a chilling effect to some degree, but this is just how I'm feeling. And I haven't come down into any definitive ultimate thoughts on this because this is still something I'm struggling with, but I just don't feel like if you have something negative to say, you can have something negative to say. But I don't think we're all considering if that's going to improve anything, if our words are going to make anything better, or if maybe just our actions will. And I'd like it for us to just show it our actions rather than just feeling like we need to say something negative every time, even when, you know, a man just died or anybody just died. It's just negativity. Negativity's been getting me down on the internet so much for so long. And this Eminem album feels like a really big culmination of it. So yeah, I've talked enough about this. It's about 43 minutes, about half the length of my original Eminem album review. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it here. Hopefully you guys stuck with it. This was kind of a deeper thing for me. I really don't talk about deep shit like this too much, or relatively deep shit like this too much on my channel. So I appreciate y'all sticking with me if you did watch the whole video. Thank you guys, and I will speak to y'all in the next one. And without further ado, keep it real, keep it true.